about Nigerian history. This afternoon, we are continuing to see the advantages and disadvantages of the roles and policies of the former heads of state in the present day Islamization, jihad, and the massacre of indigenous people in the country. As you may see in the photograph of the first slide, there are various images that describes what is happening in the present day regime of General Muhammad Buhari, the former military head of state, and the present civilian regime. You find out that this group of people, the old heads of states, are circling themselves to finish the conquest which they started in 1970. Let us continue. As you can see again, we are going to start with the effect, what the policy has culminated to this Islamic jihadist expansion in the country. The second slide will see Nigeria as a secular nation with Islamic military heads of state under oath between 1966 to 1999 to implement Ahmad Bello's pledge to Islamic world in 1962. First, you see the photograph of the former heads of state, General Murtala Muhammad. We have done that. You see the Buhari, General Babangida, and General Abdul Salami. These are the three current heads of state that took over power between 1983 to 1999. Now, what are the legacies? But before we go into the legacies, we have to recap to see what we did in the last presentations. You see, Nigeria Islamization agenda, battleground of northern Nigerian army generals between 1960 to 1999, then 20 to 21. These are the key figures. Late Ahmad Bello, Sardauna of Sokoto, great-grandson of Usman Dan Fodio, who was charged to ensure the completion of Islamization agenda of Nigeria. This was stated in Ulukoshi project in 1990. Then we have again, which we have already presented, General Gowon, the head of state. Today, we are going to look into General Muhammadu Buhari's legacies, his leadership. Then after which, we go into General Babangida and the Abdul Salami. These will be the last group of military heads of state before we go back to their own recyclement, starting with General Olusegun Obasanjo. As you know that the history in its form, the leaders are being judged on their economic, political, social, religious, and implementation policies. These are the areas of judgment. But however, in Buhari's case, he came to power in 1983 after sacking the former civilian head of state, Alhaji Shehu Shagari. He came in December 31st, 1983, after a military coup that removed President Shagari. Months after the takeover, the devout Muslim lobby groups visited the new leader. The Northern Powerful Muslim Group, Southwestern Muslim Group, the commercial and industrial companies with business ties from Middle East, Then many Arab governments also mounted pressure on Major General Buhari to accept the request of the groups. In this forum, there is one particular thing I want you to note. The 1983 coup d'etat of northern senior military officers created opportunities for implementation of what is happening today, or to create an environment which enabled what is happening today to take place. The Organization of Islamic Conference and Northern Nigerian Council ushered in Major General Muhammadu Buhari to implement the policy of their leader, to fulfill the pledge to the World Islamic Congress in 1962 by Ahmad Bello. To subdue, what are the objectives? The objectives of this issue is to subdue and turn Nigeria into an Islamic country, to establish Islamic order and maintain closer ties with Islamic nations, that's the OIC, to reduce close ties with Western nations, to enable them or create a ground for future invasion of Eastern and Western Nigeria. And lastly, to control the oil resources. These are the key things that were in their mind. However, during the time of Shagari, there was a trade deficit of about $1 billion in the business of Nigerian system. Then there was also initiative from the government of Sheikh Shagari to negotiate with the IMF to ensure that there is a continuity in importation of goods, because already there was evidence of austerity measures introduced in 1982 by Sheikh Shagari. So this created a forum and made the system a ground devaluation, a ground opportunity for the new regime to take advantage, and also for the watchers, that is the Arab nation, were interested in what was going on in the country. So they used the opportunity when the new regime came in to evaluate the situation, and unfortunately for the new regime, they had problem over getting the loans. The conditions handed over to them by Western nations made it impossible for them to secure the new $2.2 billion or $2.1 billion they wanted to secure for continuity of the austerity measures. This was the time when the temptation came in from the Arab nations, who foresaw the hard conditions to secure the loan from the International Monetary Fund. What happened? The Western nations attempted to withdraw export credit guarantee agencies of insurance coverage on exported goods coming down to Nigeria if IMF did not give them the loan, or if the government fails to secure the loan. They promised economic measures that will help to make it palatable for Nigerians to secure a new grant. This is coming now from the Arab nations, the OIC, Organization of Islamic Countries, who were watching the events in Nigeria. So they decided to promise them, if they can be able to register Nigeria into OIC, they will be able to give them the financial and the economic aid. Nevertheless, the question is, who were the lobbyists in 1984, as months after Buhari took over power? These were the Northern Nigerian Islamic Council, headed by Sultan of Sokoto in the name of Sultan Sadiq. Then the Grand Qadi Abubakar Gobi, the Western Nigerian Islamic Group headed by Secretary General of Islamic Council, Dr. Latif Ademite and MKO Abiola. The third were the Islamic nations headed by Saudi Arabia and their business group. Then Buhari, being the head of state, was confused in the sense that Nigeria is a secular state. That means Nigeria is a multi-religious country, of which any decision taken must be in consideration of these two primary goals of ensuring that none of the religious group will be affected. This did not go well with the pressure group or the lobbyists who wanted him to do everything to ensure that they got what they want. That is the issue. They got Nigeria registered as Islamic nation. This led to what later became a new coup. But however, we are going to look at the legacy of this general, Buhari's policies on Islamic jihadist expansion of Nigeria. As at that time, he was so slow to take decision on the registration of Nigeria into OIC. This was the truth about it. He was so reluctant. And nevertheless, we have to look at his other legacies. The authority was particularly in the forefront of, one, the Decree 2 and the Decree 4. He promulgated Decree 2 and Decree 4. Decree 2 restricted freedom of press and the suppression of government critics. Decree 4 forbade any journalist from reporting any information against his government. This led to the convictions of some journalists like Tunde Thompson and Nduka Irabo. Again, his authorities, his legacy on security system was another major blow of his type of government. There was the suppression of citizens using National Security Organization and the state security services. This led to the suspension or mistreatment of Nigerian Medical Association, and he outlawed entirely the National Association of Nigerian Students. These are the legacies. His type of national security organization and the investigation, and there were a lot of detentions and imprisonment of top southern politicians like Professor Ambrose Ale, Dr. Alex Ekweme, Chief Sam Bakwe, and others, because he used his national security organization to intimidate and persecute politicians, mainly from the southern part of the country, while the northern politicians were allowed to go free, just like what is happening today. The authorities' regime and the policies, also in his own area of assessment, he condemned corruption and economic mismanagement. But today, at the end of the regime, there was more or less the same system that bedeviled the regime. Well, we look at the whole thing and say that there was, in fact, a regime of suppression as at that time, and we are going to compare it with the time when we come into his civil regime as a civilian. Now that will be the end of this very section. If you like it, please give us a thumb, share it, subscribe, and make a comment. We will come back to you. Thanks and God bless you.